Wow, that was a very, very good chapter of Taizai. Now, I'm not just talking about the Escanor stuff. That's not what just made this chapter good, FYI. What made it really good was that, actually for a lot of reasons, really, but one of the big ones that stood out to me was Diane having regrets, and that's what led her into being possessed by the spirits. It makes a lot of sense, actually, because we have seen Diane have regrets before in the past, and we also know that she felt very guilty after how she allowed Meliodas to see Elizabeth in this state, and then she reminded Elizabeth of what happened, like, oh yeah, you need to remember everything, which led into Elizabeth waking up, having both eyes as goddess clan, and then now she's gonna die in 3 days. So obviously, Diane feels very guilty. She has regrets and all that, and that's just normal. That's a normal thing. We already saw this, that she was upset about that. So her being possessed by the spirits makes a lot of sense, and I'm glad that we got that little bit of depth with Diane in this chapter, but also how, you know, she felt about King as well, of how she's like, finally after all of this event I do this and all that. It just, that was really nice. That was a really nice addition from what Nakaba-sensei added into this chapter. But that wasn't the only thing that made this chapter good. One of the big things that was the highlights of this chapter was definitely seeing Hellbrom actually get his closure, what he wanted, in a way. Hellbrom has always been this character in the story that's had a very deep connection with King. He is someone that has always been there to either be King's opponent or to stand with him and help him out. And we have seen this character die a couple of times. King has had to witness his friend actually die a couple of times. He's even had to kill his friend again a couple of times because of just the situation, the way the world loves to torment King. I mean, I don't know what Nakaba-sensei has against King. He really loves torturing King and just making him very miserable, and so it's to be expected that once again he would have to witness someone he cares about die, and Hellbrom, he passes on, so to say. Anything that was left of him that he could possibly stay in the world is gone. The helmet that was keeping him there was completely crushed by Diane, and also he was taken in by all the vengeful spirits. They just attacked him, and he moved on. So with that being said, I feel very bad for him, but may he rest in peace finally, because this man has been forcibly reawoken many times. Many times when he was resting in the spirit realm and all that, this man has been forced to come back, and he's had to see more painful shit. Shit he even caused himself, and he realizes the pain he caused in the world, but there was nothing he can do about it. And so because of that, I do hope the Hellbrom, he actually has some closure. The man is able to move on, and he's able to be at peace. Because, I mean, even though he probably left with some regrets, I mean, that's a very likely possibility, because, I mean, the man realizes he fucked up a lot when it comes to certain things. I do feel like he kind of managed to make closure, because he allowed the vengeful spirits to take out their aggression on him. He managed to talk with King one last time. He was able to protect King before, you know, he disappeared again, and also, he was able to talk with Elaine right before he disappeared too. So, I mean, there's a lot of things there that Hellbrom managed to do before he finally had this moment in this chapter, so that was some nice closure. And I know King is probably going to feel very upset because, I mean, Hellbrom is like his best friend, dude. I mean, just like how Meliodas and Bon is, and how they're best friends, King and Hellbrom, they were best friends. And seeing how Hellbrom just passed on, you know that's going to affect King quite a bit. And so I'm kind of curious to see the, you know, discussion between Diane and King in the future chapters. Because, you know, Diane, she is probably going to feel rather upset about that. Because King might explain what happened there to her. He might stay quiet about it. I could also see King not even saying anything. He might just keep everything to himself, not even say what was going on with the helmet, and he might not even tell Diane what she actually did. But if for some reason Diane does know or she finds out, I can see that leading into some form of character development for both of these characters and the relationship. But getting off of that, though, let's also talk about the situation with what Nakaba-sensei did with the, like, tricking me constantly throughout this chapter. You remember in last chapter, I was stating that it was kind of apparent what might happen. For instance, either King was going to get in front of Diane, he was going to talk to her, try to make her see reason, since, you know, recently they got to get together and all that, and Diane might wake up because of King, or you have it to where Galther, he might jump in and he might try to tamper with Diane's mind and help her out, and get her out of, you know, being controlled. I said these two things most likely could be the possibility of how Diane would get out of this situation, and in fact, that did happen in this chapter. However, even though these two things happened, that wasn't the result of how Diane did get out of it, which I am very pleased that Nakaba-sensei did actually fool me with that, because I figured that when it comes to something like this, even in a normal shonen, when you have these characters make a bond, like Galther and Diane, and Galther's trying to change, King is in a relationship with Diane now, you would think that King would be able to talk some sense to Diane to get her out of it, or Galther, since he's a friend, he's able to manipulate memories and stuff, and he's incredibly OP, would be able to help out Diane, but that was not the case. So I'm just very pleased with Nakaba-sensei for that alone with this chapter. But also, the entire stuff with Elizabeth and all that, that's going to lead into some probably emotional stuff. I could see this adding a lot of closure to Diane and Elizabeth, because as we know, Diane, she feels a lot of regret. And so I could see her talking to Elizabeth, Elizabeth talking to her, and then saying, don't need to feel regretful or anything like that. You know, this was bound to happen eventually. It's destiny, it's fate, it's our curse. And so I can see something like that happening. But once that's closed, I could see Meliodas probably giving his farewells to Elizabeth, which would be a very emotional moment of the series. I could definitely see Nakaba-sensei focusing on that, and I mean, who knows, maybe he will go down that route. I mean, if Elizabeth does die, it's not necessarily the end. We gotta remember that. Even if Elizabeth dies, she's not gone. I mean, this Elizabeth right now will die. The Elizabeth we know will die, until she gains back all of her memories again. But that probably won't happen for a very long time, because that's like the end game of the series, the final part of Taizai. So I could see Elizabeth dying, and I could see King, Diane, Bond, Galther, Merlin, all of them trying to figure out a way to comfort Meliodas after the loss of Elizabeth, and probably promise him we'll figure out a way to break your curse. I could see something like that. So I feel like that's where the series is going right now, where Nakaba-sensei is taking it, because of how Elizabeth is now here. She's woke up and all that with Elaine. I feel like we're going to have a lot of goodbyes very soon. For instance, Elaine's going to disappear after Scylla's gone, and then Elizabeth, she's going to die and then be reborn again. I could definitely see that. But with that being said, though, moving on, let's talk about the epic Escanor stuff. So Escanor, always straight fire. I love Escanor as a character. I think everybody knows this, and there's a lot of fans of Escanor, and he's always badass every time he's in a chapter. He really steals the show with his quality panels, and you could see Nakaba-sensei really likes Escanor as a character because of certain things he does with the character. And in this case, when Escanor comes in and he strikes Diane, he hits her in the gut, he's like, I didn't strike your face because you're a girl. I wanted to show you some respect. And so he is like, I didn't punch you in the face. I punched you in the gut. But you see the way he hit Diane it looked really bad. Like, that man just went all in and punched her in the gut. That looked incredibly painful. And as soon as that was done, Diane just hits him and just knocks him back. And as he flies back, he hits a rock, and Escanor's just crossed-armed. He's like this. He's just leaning in a rock. Like, his body is in a fucking rock. And he's just like this. He's like, okay. he's like, okay. And that was really fucking funny. Just Escanor getting punched back. And as he hits the rock, he just has his arms crossed, and he's embedded into a freaking boulder. That's funny. That's legit funny. Even when the man gets knocked back, he's still showing that he's freaking prideful. He's like, okay, I see how it is. This is how you're gonna be. You're gonna attack me while I try to be nice to you. I see. So just Escanor, pretty funny. I love his character so much because of that. But, anyways, another thing too, let's talk about the creepiness of this chapter. So, we all know that Nakaba-sensei can get very creepy. I've talked about this already. He definitely has a different side to him sometimes. When he wants to get very dark or show some creepy shit, he can do it. I mean, we've seen it when it comes to the demon designs and stuff. We have seen it in the past when people get blown up or killed. We have seen how Nakaba-sensei can go in with some creepy ass shit. And in this case, we see Diane just straight up out of a horror manga. I mean, when she takes her big ass hammer and slams it into her head, and you see it like go into her temple and all that, that was just, oof. That looked brutal as hell. It looked really creepy, and it just shows that these spirits did not care at all. It just added a different vibe to this chapter, and I love Nakaba-sensei's art style when he does that. When he actually has this creepier tone to his art and all that, I love that. It's some of my favorite moments of Taizai when we have this type of art style. But that's about it when it comes to this chapter, so let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below. I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.